It's time for more Twisted-Wonderland Overblot songs, and today's is Jamil's and I believe it's Ville's. So I'm quite excited. We're gonna be looking at 2 songs at a time now. So let's get going. Also, I have the, English translations for this song on my phone while I watch this. Ooh, I like the way that you sing this. The one thing I'm not sure about is whether this actually has a music video. I thought this was it, but I guess I was wrong. Either way, I couldn't really find the video for it. So if you do have a recommendation on like where to find this one in particular, let me know in the comments so I can actually watch it on my own. I realized I was covering my mouth, sorry about that. But I do like the way that this song starts off. Like for example, if we go a little bit more here. Like you can hear like there's a minimal amount of instrumentals there. So it makes you appreciate his vocals a lot more. Now, I do want to note that, again, I have the lyrics, the English translation right in front of me, but I do remember him saying that the first memory he had was of him and his family bowing down to Callum and his family, and also being punished for not listening to Callum when he said he didn't want to play with him anymore. I could see why he became very bitter about that, especially if you were a child and that was your first impression. That's not very, a good way to look at someone positively too. It's a different story if, the other family, the ruling family was a lot more respectful towards Jamil and his family, but it feels more like the dynamic is more of Jamil's family, basically groveling towards Callum's family, not Camille. I think it's Callum, right? Yeah, it was Callum, I believe. And so I can see why in the first line where he says, there's never an end to these miserable days. And it doesn't help that his family told him to basically lose to him and everything, even if he's extremely smart, which makes sense why the first line he says is gemstones and magic alone cannot bring about my deepest wish, because his wish is to essentially break free and show off who he actually is and his capabilities. But he can't do that if, his family's at stake and he can't really show off his true potential because of that, when there is the potential that his family might be affected negatively if he were to even dare try that. Or at least in the point of view of that family, that's probably what they're thinking. But while I'm processing this, a special thanks to my pay members on YouTube. You know who you are. Now let's get back to it. Oh, that's so good. Yes, that's a good part. The way he's singing almost feels like he's trying to breathe, but he can't. Obviously, I don't know if it's on purpose, but in some ways, the shortness of the note that he's hitting makes it feels like, oh, this person's out of breath. Not actual, but the intention behind it, if that makes sense. I wish I could explain it better, but maybe I'm not. But I do like that part because it shows how, there's a line here that says, I breathe like I'm gasping for air. As my desire grows, it just feels too narrow here. An anger that won't ever wane and things like that. And when you think of such lines and you imagine what it's like, it's hard to breathe. You're trying to grasp for air. It's like you're drowning in water that just continues to drown you over and over in a small room that you can't escape out of. That line is so good. Okay, so that's his gem, the thing that removes or reduces the amount of blotting. Oh, that line, that voice, it's on point. Ooh, that's a nice instrumental right there. So before it ends, almost near the end, I do want to go over a few parts of the lyrics. So not only is the, like, compared to at least the other Overblot songs, this one in particular doesn't make like a huge use of the instrumentals. Like there's no like multiple layers of instruments being used. It's very minimal, but it makes good use of like the, to some degree, the silence or the emptiness, the hollowness, with the lack of instrumentals in its music. So you can focus mostly on the voice itself. And I do believe that that aspect fits with him well because he does feel alone, which probably doesn't help. Even though, you know, Callum has like the best intentions and wants to be buddies with him, obviously for him, that's not something that you can just easily be like, oh yeah, okay, I'm fine with that. No, he unfortunately is the type that had a huge grudge and that continued to grow as his family continued to suppress him in every way possible. Maybe not every way possible, but to him it felt that way. And so he couldn't contain himself at that point, and he just wanted to, even if it was obviously bad to do, he just wanted to kick him out and, you know, be able to finally have power over his own, but also to retrieve his true identity. Obviously, he could have gone about this a better way, which I know a lot of you guys agree with that, but I do understand from his perspective why he ended up the way he did, because even if we know that, you know, it's not good to do certain things, it doesn't mean that we'll actually follow through with that, which is one of the hardest things, especially since they're still young, technically. It's not like they're like in their 30s or something, so their brains are still developing. And so it makes sense that they would make bad decisions, even though they might know logically that, you know, it's not the way to go. So when he says things like, listen to the incessant voices to grasp freedom in my hands as if it were a curse, off to the far reaches we fly, it's still not enough. And things like stars all shattered again, and with them my wish. So every single time he always has some kind of hope, it always was shattered, probably by his family, who tells him to lose against Callum on purpose, and, you know, having to restrain himself to a point where he wasn't able to develop and make mistakes for himself so he can mature. At that point, you become arrogant to a degree where you think that you don't need to make mistakes and therefore you're perfect compared to the person you have to lose against. But in reality, he has a lot of deep flaws himself. And that's something that you can't really realize, especially if you are forced to be suppressed all the time, until you no longer are in that kind of position where you have to suppress yourself all the time. So the lines with the "this tasteless reality" is another that really shows how much pressure he has to restrain himself, but also how much stress he accumulated from not being able to be himself. Oh, that's the best part! Now, before it moves to the next one, I do want to go over the last couple of lines that, this song has. And there was one that I felt was particularly interesting where it says, that is a feature that is all blotted out, but maybe someday this vertigo will clear up if it were to ever be destroyed. So for him, and there was another part that says patchwork illusion over this tasteless reality. For him, reality is something that makes him feel nauseous about, which, again, I understand why, personally. Like, it's not like trying to restrain yourself is an easy thing to do. And not to mention your family's fate is on your shoulders. It's also a lot of pressure, especially for a child, and then having to grow up under that kind of pressure is not exactly the best thing in the world to experience. But I do like the part where he says, with a thirst unable to be quenched, my dry throat trembles. One day I'll tear through the sky and what I'll see beyond that is, as the shadows flickering in and out, follow where the scarab bleeds to grasp freedom in my hands. I can only pine since it's all a lie. I just want to know. In some ways, he wants to see what it's like if he didn't have to essentially be under Callum all the time and lose to him on purpose, which I also get, because who would want to purposely lose? I'm sure some of you guys would be okay with that, but typically you would at least want to see what your limitations actually are or how far you can go compared to always losing and making sure you're average. Or maybe some people would be okay with that. I mean, personally, I guess that would be fine, but clearly for Jamil, that's not really the case, which I totally get. But overall, I really like this song. It's the type of song that I wouldn't mind listening to offline. I think my favorite part is definitely here, though. Right here, right here. Yes! That part. Right here. Oh, that buildup is so sweet. The only thing I'm sad about is that I can't really see the visuals, but I guess it even helped. I thought this was the music video, but I guess not. Either way, if you're enjoying this so far, then hit the like and subscribe before I move on to the next song. And share my friend, or no, not share my friend. Share my video with a friend to spread the fun. Now let's go to the next one. I think the next one is Vils. Yes, there we go. I believe this one has subtitles. Yes, it does. Thank goodness, I was a little bit worried. This one's very peaceful from the beginning. ずっと求めてたただ一つの席にはいつもあの子私がふさわしく座るべき場所に Ooh, that's a nice voice right there. 世界よ美しいて Oh, yes! I was looking forward to this one so very much because I knew it was going to be good. But I do want to talk a little bit about the lyrics here in the beginning. I like how there was a huge buildup in the beginning before we reached that point that I paused at, because it fits his character with the way he likes to be all, he has that flair and wants to be in the spotlight and, you know, be in movies and things like that, which obviously requires buildup in order to truly blow your mind, essentially, right? But I remember for the summary video that I watched for him, he always wanted to be the fairest one, and it was always Nage, I think that was his name, that always claimed the seat. And that part actually kind of made me bittersweet that he ended up losing at the end, just because one of his members decided to whatever vote for the other guy. I still don't get why. I get why, because he's a fan, but it kind of pisses me off when I think about it. I also do understand, like, it's for the purpose of, you know, making Bill develop as a character too, but I don't know, it kind of pisses me off low-key. But in any case, I do like how they're very clear-cut about how he feels. It really matches his personality, where he's quite honest with his thoughts and when he says them, at least based on what I saw in the summary video. And I think the song itself also shows that. He thinks and believes that he should be treated as the fairest, even if the world doesn't think so. With this part. And what's ironic is that because he's too beautiful, they think that he shouldn't be a protagonist. I think that's literally the most weirdest thing you could ever say about someone. Like, oh yes, you're so beautiful, therefore you're not relatable. Like, what? People watch entertainment for the beauty, as one might put it. And what's sad is that Will himself isn't such a horrible person either. Like, he actually cares about his dorm mates, for example, with the apple juice. I think it was for Epid. And, you know, that just shows he actually does care and uses his influence in a way that benefits his members. But even though he has this much power, he doesn't really think of it as anything great because he's so focused on others' perception of him and not being able to get the role that he wants, which is quite saddening, which is why he, you know, tries to poison Nage and what was it? And then believes that everyone should be gone so that he could be the fairest of them all. He truly spiraled right there. I actually find him to be the most fascinating so far as a character. Because of the way his personality is. Oh, that's beautiful. Ooh, I love those moments. Before we continue, I do feel like he would make for a great protagonist, like in a movie or something. So it's a shame that he was unfortunately surrounded by those with very limited visions. Like, if you think about it, not like if amongst the best movies out there, there are some that have like anti-heroes or those with unconventional looks, as in like they don't look like the good person type of appearance. They might actually look like a villain, but they're actually a good guy. So it's just, he just had like really bad luck, which makes me feel bad that he constantly ends up having to clash with Nage, even though they have very, I guess, vast differences in their strengths. Like, for example, Nage as a villain, he definitely wouldn't fit it well from most producers' perspective unless his acting was that good. So I just feel so bad for Vil. On one hand, though, I do think he's fascinating because he's probably relatable to a lot of people who have the inability to develop self-esteem without having acknowledgments from others, as in people who can't help but place too much importance on what others think compared to developing their own thoughts and self-esteem and confidence, which is somewhat ironic because he's a character with a lot of flair and has a lot of power and a lot of influence, but just the fact that he's not called the fairest in the world makes him crumble so fast because he cares too much about what other people think compared to what he thinks of himself. He always says that he's amazing, he's great, he's most beautiful, but that doesn't matter in the face of millions of people in the audience for him, which I feel like is probably relatable to a lot of people who are unable to develop that self-confidence on their own.
つぶやいて美しい名前一つ
Oh, that's beautiful. Honestly, I think this one's my favorite, especially with the build-up, like especially right here, I think. Yeah, right here. I love the build-ups in this song, and his voice is absolutely gorgeous. I also like the minimal usage of effects in this one because it really makes his beauty a lot more apparent throughout the video. So you can focus on his words, but also, I guess also what exactly he wants to express. His anger, his frustration, his spiraling. But I just love the build-ups. Those are the best parts for this song. I think out of the Overblot songs so far, I think this one might rank 1. Just because I love the build-ups and his voice is just so addicting here. It's too good. Oh, it's beautiful. Anyways, be sure to click on the playlist right here on the screen if you want to see more videos like this one. And I'll see you guys in the next video. I think next one is Idia's and I forgot what that guy's name is. The one that's inspired, twisted from Maleficent. No. Wait, yeah, that one. So it'll be those two next. Yeah, I'll see you guys later. Bye. Wait, we got a bit. Yeah, okay. Now we can end it.